Which three-game stretch would define Texas college football season in 2025? This was surprisingly challenging because there's two pathways you could have gone down. Neither is wrong because they both are eerily the same. They feature a major road test, a rivalry game, and then a trap game. So let me ask you, which do you think is more likely to happen? Kentucky pulling off a circa Alabama Vanderbilt 2025, or Arkansas that still to this day claims Texas as its biggest rival, marching into the 40 acres and pulling off an upset, which would basically be their Super Bowl? Yeah, I guess the exact same, which is why it's at Georgia, home against Arkansas, home against Texas A&M for the Longhorns. Let's break it all down. Welcome on into SEC Unfiltered. It's Cole Thompson here. Like the video, hit the ring notification. Longhorn Nation, make sure you subscribe to the channel because we talk Texas football and college football daily. Download the podcast version of the show wherever you get your podcast listening systems and check out all of our great work found at secunfiltered.com. And as always, we're proudly brought to you by our friends over at FANDUEL. Go visit fanduel.com/SECU. Join in the madness today and get started with $250 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. Texas going to the national title. Arch Manning winning the Heisman Trophy. The Longhorns going undefeated into Miami. You want to make that bet? Go do so at fanduel.com/SECU. And when you lay down $5, you win that bet. You're going to get $250 in bonus bets simply by signing on up. All right. So yes, the Ohio State game matters. The Florida game matters. Red River matters. But in my opinion, how you close out the season is as important to how you start it. Because if nobody's going to be looking at Texas after the Ohio State game and calling them overrated, you could slip up on the road in the swamp. You could easily go back and forth with a revamped Oklahoma offense. But I look at these three games to close out 2025. You got to have it. Because if you want to prove that you are right alongside Alabama and Georgia as the premier team in the SEC, you got to go into Sanford and you got to take what's yours. Last season, Georgia came to Austin. They were down and out of the count. Just lost to Alabama, kind of had a bit of struggles afterwards, and you were coming off of a massive 34-3 win in the Red River Shootout. Confidence was high. It felt like that you were rolling at the right time, and your offense proceeded to do nothing. Not just Quinn Ewers, but you weren't able to run the football efficiently. Nobody was able to get open. And while your defense forced 3 interceptions on Carson Beck, you did nothing with it, like at all, which is why a 30-15 result was the final score. And people started wondering, what is Texas missing? Then you get a shot for redemption in Atlanta. You knock out Carson Beck in the first half. Gunnar Stockton makes a major rookie mistake. And you still can't capitalize, and Georgia ends up winning the SEC title, still remaining supreme of the conference. This is your time to go to Sanford. This is your time to set the tone and prove that you are the big dog. And it's more than just actually pulling off a win. It's showing continuity and identity, consistency, little things that great programs do, little things that Nick Saban would do when he would go into Death Valley, or things that we would see from Kirby Smart when he played against a team like Auburn on the road or any hostile environment. That's what I want to see from Texas in this game. This is a good Georgia team. They don't know what they are right now because of its a ton of new production, but from the blue chip scouting ratio and the 5-star ratings, this is Kirby Smart's most talented team. And they're going to show up on Saturdays ready for vengeance. They want to prove to the country they're actually being undervalued going into this season. So for my money, I got to see Arch Manning step on up. This is a game where I'm not putting all the pressure on Arch, but I do want to see him live up to expectations because that's what you came to Austin for. It wasn't for facing off against San Jose State or maybe going into a road environment like Columbus, Ohio. It's great that you have those games. It's certainly great that you get to face off against a Mississippi State or maybe eventually go to Vanderbilt and see what Diego Pavia is up to. But you came to Texas to prove that you were the top dog for a team that wants to be BACK. This is the moment you do so. How do you feel learning the ins and outs of the offense? You'll have over 400 reps underneath your belt at this point in the season, bearing an injury. So everything should be mastered at this point, not just from the mental side, but the physical side. You've already gone up against great pass rushing units. You've already faced off against quality defensive coordinators. You already know what a hostile environment's like. You're going to be playing in the swamp earlier in the year. And then for half the game, you're facing off against a ton of Sooners that are screaming in your face, wishing that you didn't exist. So you can't use the Sanford Scaries as a reason why this team struggles offensively. How do you build that rapport in the passing attack? Do you know when to tuck and run? Do you know when to go ahead and make sure that you call an audible at the line of scrimmage? Because if you're checking out that defense and seeing the faults or seeing the areas where they're going to come beat you. So if Texas can do that, and then their defense can play up to par. Because I still believe in this defense. And a lot of those new pieces on the interior, whether it be Manad Watson, Justice Terry, Hero Canoe, Travis Shaw, you bring in Coleman Brevard, all of these guys are going to have at this point 9+ games to really feel like they have gelled together. There should be no excuse. This offensive line is questionable. Now, it doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it's questionable going into the year. So maybe this is a moment where you got to figure out, how do we win our one-on-ones? Maybe it's on the outside with Colin Simmons, Ethan Burke, Trey Moore. Maybe you're setting up delayed blitzes from Anthony Hill, which is making Gunnar Stockton have to rush his throws, put it into double coverage, and ultimately lead to an interception. Malik Muhammad, Buki Taft, Jalen Gilbo. You got the dudes in the back end that still are going to have a top 5 secondary if everyone stays healthy. You go into Sanford, a place that's very challenging to win, and you set the tone. We don't know what Georgia's going to be this year. They could end up being a juggernaut that looks like vintage Kirby Smart teams that are absolutely kicking your ass. They also could be still trying to figure out their rhythm. Who's to say? But this is going to be a very big test for Texas because of when you go play on the road in the college football playoff. Because Texas is going to the college football playoff. You're going to be facing off against similar environments. You're going to be facing off against similar teams. They all have an opportunity once you get past that first round to really make a run and go win the national title. So how do you respond in one of these situations where it's like, gotta have it? And then how do you respond in the next game, the trap game, which is Arkansas? Again, Texas fans don't look at Arkansas fans the way that Arkansas looks at Texas. They don't. It's like in that scene of Mad Men when you hear Don Draper listening to that one dude. He's like, I feel sorry for you. I don't think of you at all. That's Texas and Arkansas, except, the I don't think of you at all is Texas, and I think about you, feel sorry for you is Arkansas. They want this win because at this point in the season, who knows what Arkansas is going to be? Sam Pittman's still the head coach. Is Bobby Petrino now calling the shots one last time before he's thrown out of Fayetteville again? Are we seeing Taylor Green have his highlight moment? Like, what are we getting of this Arkansas team down the stretch? What I can tell you is their Super Bowl would be beating Texas in its own backyard. They would love it. They would love nothing more than to guarantee going into their first matchup of the Lone Star Showdown in over 15 years in their backyard. Hey, you lost. Now you got to win this next one. Like, imagine Texas being undefeated. Somehow they drop the game to Georgia and then they lose this matchup. It's bad. It's horrifying. It's absolutely nightmare fuel for the Longhorns, but it's what Arkansas fans salivate over. It's what they dream about. It's what they hope is a reality for them. And it can be. Because if you have Taylor Green, and I don't know if you know much about Taylor Green, but year 1 to year 2 quarterbacks underneath Bobby Petrino vastly improved. He was a reason why you stand a chance in Fayetteville. He is a reason why your offense, despite having a ton of questions going into this year, may end up popping. It may end up being promising. It may end up being a reason why we talk about Arkansas as the surprise team in the SEC. I don't know, but I can tell you 10 is going to be perfect this game if you allow him to, and it's going to ruin your Saturday afternoon. Because the last thing you can afford to do is come off a major win or even a loss to Georgia and then not show up for the next game. Take out your frustrations on losing in Sanford against a Hogs team that is probably going 5-7, 6-6, or make sure that you set the tone going into the next matchup against Texas A&M. The first time that the Lone Star Showdown is back in Austin since 2010 by beating up on a former Southwest Conference rival. It's simple. Handle your business against a team that you know is inferior. Because the last thing you can afford to do is start showing up and having the cheeks in the armor and asking yourself, what went wrong down the stretch? This can't be one of those games. Because then you get the next game, which is Texas A&M. It's the Lone Star Showdown. Now, most of you are still wondering who don't know what Texas is all about. This game has a lot of validity to older fans. The younger fans understand and appreciate what this matchup is because of the games that were played in basketball and baseball, the Jim Schlossnagle angle. You grew up in a house divided with the maroon on one side and the burnt orange on another. You had family members that wouldn't talk to each other because they still remember what the Thanksgiving atmosphere was like. Like, this is a big game, and it's in Texas' backyard. It's senior day. It's the last game of the year. Texas at this point may have punched their ticket to the college football playoff and to the SEC title game. They may be undefeated. You could lose this matchup and nothing's going to change. You're still going to be playing next week in Atlanta. You're still going to be asking yourself, do we get that first round bye? And more than likely you will, because of now we don't have to worry about conference champions just getting the automatic qualifier. And do we have a roster that is good enough to win a national title. That's what you're worried about. Texas A&M at this point could be playing for a rematch in Atlanta the following weekend, or better yet, at least a spot in the college football playoff. They could be 9-2 coming into this game, but you got to have the double-digit marker. They have a good rushing attack. They're going to be able to run the football. Last season, you didn't see Le'Veon Moss in this game. You will this year. You didn't see wide receivers built like Casey Concepcion and Mario Craver on the outside. You will this year. And the other thing, you're getting a more polished Marcel Reed. Reed last season didn't feel comfortable in front of the hometown crowd facing off against this defense. Well, he shouldn't. It was the number one defense in college football, for my opinion. But now it's year 2. He is the guy. The entire offseason has been predicated around him being QB1. How does Colin Klein's system work for him to be successful? How do we push the ball downfield for him to show off his strengths? How do we make sure that he is the guy that is leading the charge? That's been the entire conversation all offseason out in Aggieland. And that could be something that is scary if you watch Texas A&M play this season. The defense is going to be better. Year 1 to year 2 for Mike Elko, regardless if it's an elite unit this year, it's going to be improved. And then you look at the overall offensive line, it's 4 returning starters and 1 guy with proven reps at multiple positions. That's what's coming into Austin. So I'm not saying don't sleep on this game, because easily Texas A&M could drop 2 or 3 matchups before this, but I am saying they want this. You came into their house last year after them having a 12-year start, and you embarrassed them, and you went 11-1. And there were moments that Texas A&M could have easily brought themselves right back in this game because of a bad play by Quinn Ewers, by a bad execution by Arch Manning, and instead they shot themselves in the foot. As much as you took that game and ran with it, they also screwed themselves over. So there's so much that went wrong in that game last year out in Kyle Field. They want revenge. Don't give it to them. Don't care about what's at stake or what's in store. Here's the only thing you have to think of. They're little brother in our eyes in this state. They're the team that we don't care about. They're the team that thinks that they're on our level. Let's shut them up for good. Let's make sure they know where they lie, and let the Texas 8-4 jokes continue. You do that, you beat up on Arkansas, another rival. You beat up on Georgia. You go to the college football playoff and probably the SEC title game. But let me know in the comment section down below which 3-game stretch will define Texas college football season in 2025 for you. Like, review, hit subscribe. Make sure you're following us on the social channels, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at SEC Unfiltered. Follow me at Mr. Cole Thompson, and check out all of our great work found at SECUnfiltered.com. Until next time, folks, I am Cole Thompson. Hook 'em Nation, you're going to the college football playoff. Now the only question is, are you undefeated, or do you drop a game down the stretch? Bye.